Hey everybody, I'm pleased to announce that this episode is brought to you by New Masters Academy, the world's #1 art school. It's a fantastic resource that you can take advantage of. It has fantastic courses taught by teachers who taught our teachers, and it's a great substitute for really, really, really expensive art schools. So check out New Masters Academy. We have a link down below for you to check out a free 7-day trial. So yeah, check it out. Thank you, New Masters Academy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe Coffee Break Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for animation.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is normally a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like. But since this is a coffee break episode, this is truly a podcast about whatever we feel like.
Hey, how was that? That's really good NPR voice, babe.
I feel like we just did an ASMR intro.
I know. I hope you enjoyed that. Today we're going to talk about video games and what they mean to us, and how we consume them.
What we've been playing.
Yeah. We work pretty hard.
Yeah, and we don't have that much time, especially me recently, to play video games, but when we do get to, it's a really important part of our lives.
Yeah. How did you get into video games? Do you even play video games? Someone like you.
What does that mean, someone like me? What does that mean?
Spend so much time working.
So, I do, but I have pretty intense motion sickness. So I love video games to death, but there are a lot that I can't play. So any kind of first-person shooter game, technically I guess I could build up a tolerance to it, but if I even skip a day, a week, 2 weeks, it all reverts back to normal. I have to start the tolerance building process all over again.
For example, I was holding Janet's hand like a baby through BioShock Infinite, and
we got busy or something.
But for the first few days, you could only play 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But those 5 minutes stacked into 15 and then 30. Eventually, you could play for like a whole hour after like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you stopped, even for a day or two,
you couldn't anymore. Yeah. It was so frustrating too. And what helps is eating or ginger ale or those dizziness Dramamine pills and stuff like that.
So because video games are a huge part of my life, I've been trying so hard to share this passion of mine with my girlfriend. So I ever since we first started dating, I've been scouring the internet, and I hope some of you who relate, maybe have friends, maybe you are like this, who have like major motion sickness, like have any remedies, because I've been scouring the internet trying to figure out what's the best way to make sure you're not dizzy, so that you can enjoy the pleasure of playing a video game. So we've tried so many things. I think at one point we tried those bands with those acupuncture pressure beads.
Those don't really work.
There was a point where ginger ale really helps. The problem is like you're downing ginger ale every 10 minutes.
No one, like I said, food and ginger ale helps, but I shouldn't be eating junk food, essentially. Like the fattier the better.
Yeah,
but
it helps your motion sickness.
Yeah, right? But so I really shouldn't be eating like fatty foods like that constantly, because I have to, every time I feel a little bit dizzy, I need to be eating or chugging ginger ale or something fatty. So I don't know.
Yeah. So lately, especially, so you and I we were playing Borderlands 3, which is like the perfect, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend, kind of game, like game you want to share with a loved one, a family member. It's really fun. So, but it's a shooter, so it kind of gets you dizzy sometimes. So we do like, if you are like this, what we found to work is to make sure you've eaten, first and foremost, to make sure you've eaten, and then maybe to have like something like a Gatorade or at least a ginger ale on the side. And then we use these like just drugstore over the counter. They're supposed to be like all natural.
Yeah,
right?
They're like homeopathic pill things that dissolve under your tongue.
Yeah.
They're all natural. I think they're made out of like different kind of roots and natural things. They're not pills per se, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just all in my mind or whatever, but they really help.
Yeah, and I think they help too, because I remember getting sick like a year ago and then feeling nauseous or nauseated. I think I had like a stomach flu or something.
Yeah.
And then I took one of these and it helped a lot. So, and you know, like it's nice to know that's not legit Dramamine, which is like a drug, like legit drug.
Yeah, it makes you sleepy. And,
and you want to like, you know, build up a tolerance, build up a dependency on that. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I do. So growing up, I really liked video games. I have a really bad addiction
you have a problem.
to video games. When I find a video game that I like, I have almost no self-control. I can't put it down. So because I'm a little bit of a workaholic, I avoid playing and starting video games because I know I like it so much that it will be impossible for me to get any kind of work done because all I want to do is play it. But growing up, I really liked MMOs, multiplayer, massive multiplayer online games. And I liked things like Ragnarok online. I would download a lot of private servers in order to play.
Okay.
And I don't know what it was. Maybe I was like a lonely preteen that just wanted to. I also like any kind of open world game where I get to achieve and accomplish something. So any kind of RPG game I really, really like because I felt like I could disappear into some fantasy world, whatever fantasy world, and be someone else for a little while and, I don't know, earn my way. Like, there's something about grinding that I kind of really enjoy. So
is it the repetitive nature of
the
whole thing and you get rewarded and all that?
Yeah, it feels like I get rewarded by, like, at the end when I level up or I gain a new skill or something. But the main game that I got really obsessed with early on was Pokemon. Specifically the gold, silver, crystal version because I think I was too young for red, blue, and yellow, and it took a lot of convincing to get my Asian parents to buy a Game Boy Advance at the time for me, because my cousins had like I think a GameCube and Game Boy Color, and I was so jealous, and I begged and I begged and I begged, and it just didn't happen until finally I begged hard enough, and they were like, okay, fine, I will buy you one console and one video game. And all the other video games I grew up with, they were all from garage sales.
I have a Pokemon story.
Really?
Yeah, I have a Pokemon story. So when so I was 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
Not 10 years old. I was at least like 8 or 9.
Uh-huh.
And then I have family in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So while Pokemon was blowing up over there, they sent me like VHS tape, this VHS tape, which is basically a Pokemon Nintendo promo, like a 30-minute long promo.
Yeah.
That talked about like what basically showing that Pokemon is this like thing where you collect cards and you like play this video game and there are these characters. You watch this show, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna take over your life. And then in this like package from Japan had like Japanese Pokemon cards, which are like awesome. So I was like really excited for this thing to come out, and like I know a lot of people. Okay, this is gonna sound really weird, and I hope people in LA understand because we watch the same broadcasting thing. But like before, Pokemon is known to be on, you know, like the WB Saturday morning.
Yeah, like Channel 5.
Channel 5, 4Kids Entertainment.
Yeah.
Before that, it used to be on Channel 9.
What, really?
Here. Yeah, like a long time. Like when I was in 2nd grade, so that must have been like. I don't know, maybe when I was like 6 or 7, like I was like, I don't know, like 7 or 8, something like that. Like it was a long time ago, but Pokemon was on like Channel 9, and then I think 4Kids Entertainment or whatever, the WB Saturday morning channel bought it. So when I first saw Pokemon, I was like, this is the best thing ever. I told all my friends, and then Pokemon aired, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. I started even collecting the cards before I played the game because, my parents didn't buy me a Game Boy immediately either. Mm-hmm. But when they did, I was really excited to play the video game because that was the talk of the school. Ironic that I was the bringer of the news of like, oh, this thing is gonna be amazing, and then I was the last to actually play the thing. So my friends would talk about how like, they caught this and that, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. But then like I didn't really have an idea of what the Pokemon game would be. For some strange reason, after watching the show and looking at the Pokemon cards and stuff, I thought it would like be like I could control Pikachu and beat up other Pokemon. Like if I could press A and B to like bash or electrify Charmander or punch his face in, like I would be like, oh, this is so exciting. And then maybe you get to switch and all this. It's gonna be such a fun. Maybe it's like a beat 'em up game. And then like I'm like 6 or 7 years old. Like I don't know. I was young and I got the Pokemon game and I got the Pokemon game. And I was really disappointed by how much reading I had to do. I remember the first thing because like nobody actually bought the Pokemon game for me. I had a family friend who bought it on a whim and wasn't feeling it, so he gave it to me. It was a blue They
weren't feeling Pokemon, really?
Yeah, but they were like they were a family friend. They were like 30 or something.
Oh, okay.
They just were like
wrong
curious.
Demographic.
Yeah, curious about like, well, what's this Pokemon thing? And then he's like, oh, that's enough for me. But then, you're into it? Here, have mine. And he basically gave me blue version. I remember putting it in my Game Boy, which I would just play to that point Super Mario, one of the Game Boy Super Mario games. But I remember putting it in and being like, oh, this is going to be so exciting. I can't wait to beat up Pokemon and stuff. It's going to be amazing. And then like realizing that like, oh, I have to choose my attacks. And then I have to like read stats and stuff. And like it was basically Pokemon was my very first RPG game. Like I played a lot of platformers and games like that when I was young, like Mario and Sonic, but like Pokemon was my first RPG game. And I was like, oh, this is a type of video game. I can't believe it. Yeah. So eventually when I encountered like Final Fantasy or whatever, I was like, oh, this is a thing, I guess. This is a thing people
genre,
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a genre.
Yeah,
That's such a tangent. Oh my God.
But like my first video games, I think my very first one, actually computer games were my first video game. Totally. I was really into Neopets until my account got hacked. Yeah, and then but officially like my first console and my first video game was Pokemon. And because again my parents said, why should I pay $60 for a video game for my, at the time I think I was like 10 or something, my 10-year-old child? Like, no. So I would always complain that I only had one video game to play, and I really, really liked it, so I played it so many times. I don't think you understand how many times I played that game. But eventually my dad really likes going garage sale hopping and also going to visit open houses. And I've developed those two habits from him. I really like garage sales.
It's a fun activity.
And open houses.
Yeah.
But he would magically find these crazy, obscure Game Boy games. So I think that's how I got, I forget which Mario, but it was really hard. I was never able to beat more than like a few levels of it. And I had this Korean game that was very like similar to Mario. I think it's very popular in Korea. I forget, I don't know what it's called, what the name of it is, but it is basically Korean Mario. And it was all in Korean, and I had no idea what to do most of the time. I figured it out by trial and error. And then I had this Hamtaro game, which I loved.
Oh, dope.
Because I loved Hamtaro. I was one of those girls that, like, of the Saturday morning cartoons, I really liked Hamtaro, and I thought it was so cute that I could be Hamtaro and walk around and talk to other hamsters. But so after that period of time, I got into MMOs because, again, my parents are cheap. And they would not buy me a PlayStation. I did not know of all these games that most people grew up with. I lived under a rock for most of my life. So the only thing I could play were free things. So I discovered free MMO RPGs on the internet. And so things like... Maple Story was a big one.
Yeah.
Ragnarok Online,
Right.
and some things similar to that, like very like anime centric Asian MMOs. And then again, I begged my parents for a PlayStation 2 because I really wanted Final Fantasy.
10, I believe.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 10. And I don't know what I did to convince them because they would have never bought it for me, but they did. And my dad, I think there was some deal on it, and he was really fascinated by DDR for some reason.
What?
So he bought...
Like, he's probably, because your dad's really into exercise.
Yeah.
He's probably like, oh, I can exercise with my daughter.
No, he was not interested in use it. He wanted me to use it.
Probably for exercise.
Yeah. He thought it was cool or something. So he bought me DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, and the little plastic mat and everything, like the bad one, not the nice one. And then he also bought me Final Fantasy X because I really the whole reason why I wanted the PlayStation 2 was for Final Fantasy. I don't know how I discovered it. I don't know how I found out about Final Fantasy, but at that time, I think I was in middle school, so maybe 12, 13. That style of art and video games was all the rage. I remember watching Final Fantasy movie. What was it called?
Advent Children.
Advent Children.
That came out when I was in 8th grade, so you must have been in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it on loop.
Yeah. I got my copy from Chinatown. It was bootleg as fuck. So then I popped it in, and then like it had really, really bad subtitles. I had no idea what was going on, but I was like, this is amazing. Like, these CG things are amazing. And at the time, the graphics were like boxy, you know?
Yeah.
They weren't that sophisticated at all.
Recently, my memory of it is like, it's so high tech and
Yeah.
it's so real and whatever. And then because the remake 7 came out, I saw the graphics again and I was like, what did I
For Advent Children.
Yeah. Like for Advent Children, I remember it to be so realistic, but when I saw it again, I was like, these graphics are so bad. What was I remembering? There's these rosy lenses in front of my eyes for that era of video games. But I remember really loving Final Fantasy X, and also really loving DDR. I would be covered in sweat playing DDR. I got so good, I would be able to play hard mode on most of the songs.
Really makes me want to play DDR with you. Oh my gosh.
I think I was able to play extreme on one song and only one song. I never got so good that I was able to like play DDR on extreme on multiple songs. It was just too difficult. But hard was like my mode. I was and it at the time too, I was so active over the summers. My parents put me through. My Asian parents did not want me to have any free time, so over the summers they would like put me in like after school programs or sports camps or whatever. So I went to this like college level or college sponsored sports programs where like from like 10 a.m. to like 6 p.m. I would be playing sports all day. And so like I was very active. On top of that, I would come home and I'd play DDR for hours, and I'd just be drenched in sweat, and I'd be like really tan because of the California sun. I'd be as tan as you, or even tanner. But that was mostly my experience with video games, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Even Final Fantasy X would make me dizzy. I can only,
man.
yeah, I would only be, even though it's like a third person point of view with the camera pretty far away from the character, it would take me anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour to get dizzy. But it would still make me dizzy. So I always wanted to play Halo. I always wanted to play all these games everyone would talk about.
Yeah.
But I never could because, one, my parents didn't have money to buy me these games. I never used my own money that I earned through chores because for some reason I take after my parents and I save all my money, and it didn't even cross my mind I could do that. And I just can't play those games. So ironically though, I was so in love with video games that that was actually what I wanted to do. By the time I graduated high school, I wanted to go into game design and game art design. I didn't know what that meant at all. I didn't know any of the roles. Like, I feel like most people, if you're listening to this and you're in high school or you're a young artist, you don't know what you want.
Yeah.
Because you don't even really know all the titles and the roles of job titles and what everyone really does.
But you're kind of interested in a direction.
Yeah.
And at least, especially when you're young and you're inspired by something, you want to go towards something.
Yeah. And I knew that I really liked the look of like that Square Enix look or whatever at the time. Not so much anymore. You know, it's amazing how like your personal taste changes too. Yeah. But at the time I really loved it, so I went to Art Center because I was hoping to get into the entertainment design course, which I didn't get into that because that's a very selective major to get into at the time. So I got accepted into the entertainment arts major, which is part of the illustration major. And ever since then, because at that point we were in college, I didn't have time to play video games, nor did I have money because all my money was being siphoned into art college. So I really didn't play much until I met you. And then you were like, oh my god, this girl lived under a rock. How? Literally, I don't know anyone else who is like me. So I've been listening to a bunch of audiobooks, and the one that I've been finishing up currently is the Persuasion book by Robert Cialdini. He is the author of the famous Influence book, and it's a great book for anyone who, let's say, wants to get a raise at their job, or wants to be an online marketer like me, or wants to figure out how to make money selling anything, really. And you can listen to this audiobook on audible.com, and we have an offer for you. We have an Audible trial for you. Go to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe Podcast for a free trial of Audible. What you'll be getting is 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible original audiobooks, so 3 audiobooks in total. And not only that, they also include guided meditations, which I really like, and podcasts, and thousands of titles. If you don't care for Persuasion, which honestly everyone who wants to convince anyone of anything needs to read that book, whether you want to raise whatever. So since we don't have time to read books anymore, listen to it with audiobooks. So go to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe Podcast, and if you do sign up, you will be supporting the show. We will be getting a little bit of affiliate money from you at no extra cost to you. Honestly, it's just a great way for you to help support the show. So audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe Podcast. Other than the people I grew up with, but like I literally grew up under a rock. I don't know pop culture at the time. I didn't know anything about video games. I couldn't play video games. So you introduced me to things like BioShock and Last of Us and all these things.
So when we first started dating, it was apparent to me that if we were going to make this work, I need to catch you up on life because I can't just be with someone who hasn't seen Star Wars or hasn't played a Super Mario game. You know what I mean? Like,
the interesting thing though is like, it's not like I had any bias.
No.
I was a blank slate that you could kind of mold.
And that was very interesting for me because like you mentioned in the previous Coffee Break podcast, I think I introduced you into horror movies. Very slowly, because horror movies are a huge passion of my mind. My parents made me watch horror movies when I was way too young to see them, but they're a great tradition. My family's really superstitious.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, but yeah. So I'm really careful, and I have a lot of fun sort of making a class for you.
Yeah.
So when I was catching you up on movies, it was really obvious. Like, we just had to pick genres, at least to start. Picking, you know, a director or, you know, I don't know. Like, people can approach it in so many different ways. Like, you can look up like 100 top best movies or whatever it is. But I thought like, oh, let's just pick a genre. Like, okay, let's start with horror. And I slowly build you up. So I had the same approach with video games. I just am still I'm still super shocked at how intense your motion sickness is.
Yeah.
Because there were so many times like in anguish I would say like stuff like, I just wish I could share this experience with you of playing a certain game, because like it's just so exciting, and like playing this for the first time is a huge monumental moment of my life and all this stuff. It's just something I want to share with you since you're like my partner. And it's been tough. I remember introducing you to so many video games. Like I think the very first hit was Papers, Please.
Oh yeah.
Because I had Papers, Please because of that Happy Bundle. I forgot what that name was, but you could just like buy Papers, Please with a bunch of other games. But I tried having you play some third-person games, and I just saw really quickly you would get physically ill, and it's really distressing for me as your lover, because it's like you're about to throw up, you can't move, you can't get up,
and it lasts for hours after.
Does.
It's not like, oh, I turn the game off and I'm magically fine again. It's like I am nauseous for 2 hours straight.
Yeah, so imagine we're out on a date, and this happens frequently, especially in the beginning when we didn't really know how to manage this. Like, I'd be driving, and then you'd be simply looking up directions or something, and then you'd get physically ill, and that would kind of ruin it for the next 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. And that was just something we had to navigate. But like for video games, I was like, okay, what is the most not nausea-inducing game? Papers, Please. It's literally like you're kind of so Papers, Please is this game that you can play on the computer, and it's basically like you're in a
Russian gulag, basically.
Gulag. Well, you're like in this weird Russia-inspired. It's not exactly. It's like a fictionalized Russian area, I guess, where you're like a border patrol person, and you're responsible for who's allowed to go into this city or not. And there are a lot of people trying to forge their passports and stuff like that. And it's literally, the game is like you use your mouse and you drag passports, you inspect them, and you stamp them if if they're all clear, or you reject them if they're not. And it's a very just like it's basically simulating desk work. That's the best way I could describe it. I mean, I bet a lot of, like, if there's an old timer listening, it's literally that. It's desk work, the game.
You're not really selling it though, because what I
I'm not, of course. I'm just like talking about the mechanics of the game, but really sell it for me though.
So what I really liked about the game, and I got so good at it, I was so into it, is that at first you're just getting used to the mechanics of the game, and you're trying to figure out, okay, so what do I need to look at? I need to make sure the picture matches, the gender matches, and the reason, I need to know the reason for why they're leaving or coming into the country or whatever. But then you start getting news clippings from the radio or something that you accidentally let in a terrorist, and they blew up a city, and
Yeah.
you are responsible for all these deaths in
Right.
your city, and then you have to deal with that. Or you have moral consequences of these people are bribing you, but they're bribing you because they seem like good people. They seem like they're trying to escape some kind of persecution or whatever it is, and you have the dilemma: do I let them through or do I not? And then I think you have only a certain amount of penalties. So because you need to, like, when you realize that's the reason for those penalties, that it's not just one strike and you're out, you start making sure you don't mess up,
Right.
so that
The stakes are involved.
yeah,
You know,
like you can kind of be
consequences.
like Schindler from Schindler's List if you wanted to, and it was just so fascinating. The moral dilemma, like the simple game. The graphics are really simple, beautifully designed,
Yeah.
and the mechanics are so simple. But then it was able to weave these moral dilemmas and these decision-making things and consequences into this very, very simple
game.
Yeah.
And I was purposely trying to just like tell you how simple the game is. It's literally like you're looking at passports and you're stamping them,
Mm-hmm.
mostly.
Yeah.
But yes, interwoven into that very simple mechanic is this amazing story with consequences.
Yeah.
There are consequences for your actions, whether it's a mistake or something you did intentionally, or if you took a bribe under the table. Like there's consequences for the things you've done.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the first games I had you play, and it was like a big success, and like we talked about it for weeks, and that's one of the best parts about sharing art with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I played Papers, Please, and I thought it was like really fun because in this bundle it had Papers, Please,
Mm-hmm.
it had Super Meat Boy and a few other games,
Mm.
but Papers, Please was the thing that I was like, oh, Janet can totally play this.
Yeah, it's like flat pixel graphics was one of my first introductions to the pixel art form, which I love.
Yeah.
Any kind of indie video game that I play, if it has pixel graphics, immediately wins my heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you? What's your history? It's so different from
my
mine.
God, do you have like 3 days and a documentary crew? Like I can talk about this for hours. If you really want to know, if I can remember to my earliest memories of when I was 4, I remember my parents. My mom used to take care. I think I mentioned in a previous podcast. My mom used to take care of this really wealthy, well-to-do lady in Beverly Hills. She was the caregiver, and she was really nice to our family. She would really take care of us and make sure like we're happy and all that stuff. So she basically got me my very first Super Nintendo, and I remember there's pictures of me and this lady next to and this big gold box. It was as big as me. With this Super Nintendo, and with this package was Super Mario All-Stars, which was like 5 games in 1 cartridge, right? So it was great. I could play the very first Mario, which was sort of remastered, and then I could play the most recent one, which was Super Mario World, which is a fantastic game. There's a lot of debate. Like, I don't know. For me, the big discussion of the best Super Mario game is between Super Mario 3 and Super Mario World. I don't know the answer. Like there are some times where like when I was little, I could have sworn that Super Mario World was great, but then in college I was like, oh man, the mechanics of Super Mario 3, it's like so amazing. So I just waffled between the two. So I had this cartridge of Super Mario All-Stars attached with Super Mario World, and then when I was 5, in between kindergarten and first grade, I went to visit my relatives in Oregon. And I had a cousin who had just stacks of Super Nintendo games that he just hardly played. So he just gave them to me. So in that stack, as best I could remember, was this really fun game. It was kind of like in that weird dystopian Demolition Man society. It's called Smash TV, where like you're this character and and like it's a part of this game show, and like there are these like little pixel monsters and things trying to kill you, and then when you kill the monsters, it's like this top-down shooter. You know those top-down games, and then and then you like shoot and like just like weird
things
spray,
explode,
things explode, and then you just destroy all these monsters and these things trying to kill you, and you get money and gift cards and all this stuff. It had like a really funny, biting, like dark humor to it. So I had Smash TV, F-Zero, which had Captain Falcon from Super Smash Bros. Like all this stuff, which was great because when Super Smash Brothers came out, eventually much later, I was like, oh, I know some of these characters because of the games that my cousin got me. So I got F-Zero, I got Mega Man X, which is fantastic, which I beat at least like 10 times. I love that game. I had Castlevania 4, I think, and then just a few other games that I probably don't remember, but just I like that was the best because like you, it was really tough to convince my parents to buy me games. My parents as well were very stingy people. So after I got this, like the Nintendo 64 came out, and I'm not sure if you remember that time. It was Nintendo 64 versus the original PlayStation versus. Do you remember what the Nintendo? Do you remember what the Sega Dreamcast was?
No.
The Sega Dreamcast was this like there's a great cult following for the Sega Dreamcast. It's like this competitor in that era of video games from Sega before they went under it, but it had like really, really cult, like amazing games like Sonic Adventure and stuff. But when that whole era came out, again, like my this lady from
Beverly Hills
got me this Nintendo 64, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And like I got Super Mario 64, and then like from there, I was like the biggest Nintendo fan. I got like from there and on, I got a Game Boy, and I got like so many games, like Banjo-Kazooie and a lot of these things. And then as I grew to be a teenager, like one of my first rated M game was this game Perfect Dark, which was made by the same studio who did the original GoldenEye game, Rare Studios. And then they made, because they couldn't really do a sequel to GoldenEye, I think they basically repurposed a lot of their shit and then turned it into this completely different thing called Perfect Dark. And it was my first rated M game that my cousins bought me that my parents were supposed to know was rated M. So I made sure to hide that game when I first got it for the first time. I didn't want my parents to see because it was like, ooh, scary. It's like it has an M on it. It's so imposing. Usually you see the E for everyone. Mario Kart, rated E for everyone. And then when I started getting into violent video games, I was like, this is the shit. This is like awesome. And then because of that, I was like telling my cousins, I want more of this kind of stuff, give me more. And then one of my cousins turned me into PC gaming, and this was like a big deal in my life because this is like formative years, like teenage, 13, 14 years old, and I was like playing Wolfenstein, Quake 2. I was playing Quake 2 and Quake 4. And then like I fell in love with Half-Life. My cousin got me this whole, like, he put somehow everything on a disc. He's like such a computer whiz. Like he put everything on this disc, and he gave me like the complete versions of all these games except for Half-Life. The problem was he gave me like this demo version of Half-Life, which I didn't know was a demo version because like I was playing through it, and it was long, like especially for like an 8 or 9 like 9 or 10 year old like playing Half-Life for the first time. Like it's a really hard for me because there's a lot of puzzles in there actually. So when I was playing this thing, I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome, and it's taking me forever to beat. But then I realized that in the third of the game, right when the military comes to like basically wreck your shit, I hope you people have played Half-Life, but like basically when they come and wreck your shit, that's when the game stops. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, buy the full game. And I was like, what? What? So immediately, because like this game Half-Life, I would see it all the time when I would go to Costco. There would be like boxes and boxes of this thing. It was this like phenomenon. Like people really loved it. It was like, if you could think back to the time, it was one of the most celebrated games ever. And then I remember always seeing it at the Staples. I love going to Staples because my parents would buy me like pilot pens and art supplies at Staples. But I would always see Half-Life stuff. So I was like, immediately when the game was like, oh, buy the complete game, I was like, what is this? Where's my allowance? I need let's go to Staples right now. And then I bought this amazing Game of the Year edition of Half-Life, which came with Half-Life, oh my god, I forgot the specific names, but it's Half-Life, the Blue Shift, Half-Life Blue Shift, I think, and then Half-Life with the green person where you play as the military person, and then it came with a couple games like the original Team Fortress and Day of something. It's like this like really nobody really plays this Valve World War II game, but this was my thing for PC games. Like this was like my era. And then the whole thing was like when I was getting into PC games, that's when people were getting into like Xbox. And then with Xbox, what Xbox did was like take a lot of, so before Xbox, it was hard to, like, people were still trying to figure out how to get like that first person thing into consoles because keyboard and mouse is just so intuitive. Yeah. Back then, like even playing something like Perfect Dark, the controls were really clunky compared to how finessed first person shooters are for consoles. But if you can really think back, Halo was one of the first ones that was like, oh, we're going to give you like so many settings like to adjust the sensitivity, and if you like things inverted, which were already in other games before, but like Halo's mission when it first came out on the Xbox was to take that PC sensibility and bring it to the living room. So there was a crossroads there because I was really into PC gaming because of my cousins, but I like the immediacy of just being in the couch and playing video games. So I ended up like going with Team Xbox, going with Team Console, strictly because like at the time when Halo came out, Half-Life 2 came out, like I think a year or two after, and it was the most like, babe, when Half-Life 2 came out, I have never fanboyed for anything more in my life. Like I really can't think of anything I've like literally like I've cried over this because like I was like, this is the best day of my life because like Half-Life 2 came out, and like just I remember bits and pieces because like I remember I would never buy video game magazines. I would have to go to the drugstore, right? When my parents were trying to, buy a few things like medicine or whatever it is. And I go to Rite Aid and I just like quickly read through Electronic Gaming Monthly, or when my friends would have copies of Nintendo Power, I would read through them. And then I would look through all the news about Half-Life, and apparently it got leaked, and there were like these screenshots that were like, oh my gosh, like this is like the craziest game that's about to come out. And then when Half-Life 2 came out, I bought it, and then my parents' rinky-dink laptop could barely play it. For some strange reason, it could barely play it to the point where like for some reason the characters didn't have eyeballs. Like they didn't have pupils. They were just like white.
That's so scary.
Like it's so creepy because like the first scene of that game, there's this amazing character called G-Man. Like I still remember the opening monologue. Do you want to hear it? Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
Oh my God.
Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all of the effort in the world would have gone to waste until, well, let's just say your hour has come again. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I know. I'm like a nerd. Like, I know. I love this franchise so much, and it tortures me. It tortures me that I don't have a $1,000 computer so I can play Half-Life Alyx. The 11-year-old me would be so mad at the me right now for not playing the newest thing of Half-Life. He'd be so upset with me. But I'm trying to pretend like I feel like one day we'll have a nice PC and one day I'll play. I'm just trusting that one day when the time is right, I'll be able to experience this thing that I'm really excited to play. But
yeah, Vincent has been trying to convince me to get a new computer. And
in the guise of like, oh yeah, it'll help your editing. It'll be like really good for you. You're going to be able to like export these videos so quickly if you got a PC.
I'm just kidding. I just want to play VR Half-Life on it.
So yeah, from there, I knew I was Team Xbox. I also, when I was in middle school, would hang out with my friends and they had Xboxes. So I would go to their house, eat pizza, lots and lots of pizza, eat potato chips, lots of potato chips, and play like Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the old ass Xbox with the chunky ass controllers. My little ass middle school hands could barely fit those big ass controllers. But then, you know, I started to save my own money, and then I bought my first console, which was an Xbox 360, and I was like, this is the best ever. Fell out of love with Nintendo because Nintendo was doing the Wii stuff, and I really fell off Nintendo after they came out with the Nintendo DS. I didn't really like that console at all after I was really, really into the Nintendo Advanced, the Game Boy Advance, sorry. Which was like, I'm not sure if you remember, that was the Sapphire era.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, for me,
it's my favorite console.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Like the Nintendo, like the Game Boy Advance was so good. But yeah, video games are a huge part of our lives. 45 minutes in.
Oh God.
I'm ready to go for another 3. Like let's just keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I am really into this stuff, and like even though that like I mentioned before, we're into so many things. I'm really into movies. My love for movies, like I love movies more than video games. Like I know in my heart that I mean that. But like video games are a big deal for me. But yeah.
For me it's because it's really hard for me to stop playing a video game that I like. And because I grew up in the culture that I grew up in the city that I grew up in and everything, video games in that town, that environment, was pretty much seen as a waste of time, and something that I kind of adopted that mentality of I shouldn't be playing video games, I shouldn't be wasting my time, I shouldn't be having fun in a way, mindless fun. I should be studying, I should be practicing, I should be drawing or whatever. But through you, I realized exactly how important like taking the time to consume things like video games is. It's so important, because especially as artists, and especially as artists specifically in entertainment, for lack of a better word, pop culture entertainment type stuff in Hollywood, LA, where we live, you can't get away with all these art forms, whether they're video games or movies or TV shows, all kind of taking from each other and blending with each other, especially recently as video games gets more and more advanced. I think before, people used to see video games as this weird thing.
The industry is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge for video games.
Now it's pretty synonymous with Hollywood.
Yeah.
And for me, when me being pretty much a workaholic when you met me, you really taught me the importance of relaxing and having fun. And then when I am relaxing, there's I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I used to feel a lot of guilt when I would play video games, because I would enjoy it, obviously, because I like it, but I felt like I could have been using my time elsewhere more productively. And it wasn't until I relaxed enough with you that I realized exactly how, in a way, playing these video games does inform my art and all the other things that I do. Yeah. So that's my perspective on why it's important to play video games, other than the fact that they are fun. They are just neat.
Yeah, I don't want to just say it's important to just play video games. I think it's important to just consume everything. You can't
media.
consume everything, because like you don't know what inspires you. And you know, there's a debate as to which medium really inspires, informs, and juices up your imagination. Reading is king, you know, obviously. Probably reading, if you want to stimulate your imagination and really use all that horsepower, reading is probably the best thing for you. But like there's so many things that trigger ideas, stories in your mind when you dream or whatever it is. So I say listen to a diverse amount of music, watch a diverse amount of movies, read a diverse amount of books, and play a lot of video games. Because and the best thing, like, okay, maybe even better than books is life experience. Travel, have adventures, talk to people, hang out with family and friends, that type of stuff, because that's some of the best juice to influence your art, especially like the people like often, especially we're taking masterclass. Like, God, this podcast is all over the place. But like, you got me masterclass for my birthday, so we basically kind of demoed every single teacher that we were really interested in, right? So a lot of them say the same stuff. All of the teachers encourage you to consume as much as you can, especially the filmmakers encourage you to consume a lot of films, and the writers want you to consume as much drama and literature as you can. And that's the thing. Like, if you're an artist, especially one with a huge range of interests, this is all art. And I encourage you to, instead of nailing that 360 no scope shot, or getting a really crazy awesome KD, or whatever it is, I think it's really important for the artist types to really analyze and think critically about video games. For example, I'm going to talk about it a lot later, but I've been revisiting GTA 5 a lot, especially during quarantine, where we can't really explore, we can't really hang out, we can't go outside too much, or if we do, we have to like social distance, and everything's really strict. But just to just be inspired, because we're doing a lot of stuff. I just want some inspiration. I just wish I could go outside. I'm just playing GTA 5, and I'm just marveling about like how good the art direction is, how as someone who was raised here, how accurate everything looks. Like the sunsets in that game are amazing. And if you don't know, GTA 5 is based, like the fictional city Los Santos is heavily based on this satirized version of Los Angeles. It's amazing. But I think about that stuff critically. I think about like, how much work they put into this game. And I thought about like, it was a decision to make sure the lighting and the sunsets look exactly like what a LA sunset would look like at the Santa Monica Pier, let's say. And like, I don't know, I just feel like there's a way to approach consuming a video game, or watching cartoons, or doing these things that are infamously like time wasters. They're like, if you think about it with an artist lens, especially like I'm sure a lot of artists who are listening can't help it sometimes. Like, they can't help but be in a theater and watch something critically, or play a video game and really understand that like, that was really clever of them to use color to tell me where I should go. Like Naughty Dog does this thing where their signature thing is like every cliff you need to climb on, every ledge you need to jump to has this color code of like this gold yellow, so you know where to go. And like it's really interesting how like some video games are more subtle than that. Sometimes they use lighting to tell you like, this is where you should be going. And all that stuff, I think about this stuff critically, the same way I would be watching a movie and I'd be paying attention to cinematography and all that stuff.
It's a lot easier for me now, because back when we were younger, like I said, that very hyper realistic look was very in. Even when we were applying to art school, specifically, if you would look at the Art Center portfolios for entertainment design, the Scott Robertsons of the world, a lot of photo bashing is commonplace in the visual development side of designing video games. And at the time, color wasn't a thing. It was using photos to make things look as photoreal as possible, which also meant that there was no color in the shadows. Everything went to black. It was very gritty and ugly to look at.
If you want like a visual, think about the original Gears of War. It's very gray, very muddy, but very textural, very like meaty in terms of like value, but value in terms of grayscale, that kind of stuff. But like if you look at it, it's just like a gray, muddy mess.
Yeah. And there was absolutely no interest in making it look more artful. And
until recently. Yeah, past 4 years, games have become so colorful.
Yeah, I attribute it to a lot of indie games, in my opinion. But there are. When I went to art school, I discovered like animation and a lot of other career paths, I fell out of love with video game art because of that exact reason, that it felt like it didn't really fit me because it was more based in realism, more ugly in my opinion at the time. Now I'm so impressed by everything. Every single video game seems to take into consideration this more designed, illustrative, almost borderline animation way of lighting a scene or lighting an environment. It's more they're really taking advantage of the fact that it is a CG world and not making everything crushed to black and ugly and whatever. But that I'm able to appreciate that kind of stuff a lot more now. And we've been watching a lot of movies, and it's amazing how much is being taken from video games into movies.
In both ways.
Vice versa. Yeah. It's and it's not something I would have noticed if I hadn't either watched you play video games or played them myself. I would have just assumed like, oh, this is it. I would have given the credit to the film directors, to movie people. But
inspiration's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know? And I think you get it where you can. These are all just ideas that we're all inspired by, and I think it's important too to like consume other media, like movies, watching amazing movies, reading amazing literature and all that stuff. But with video games, the problem about it, and like, I guess like reading books could be addictive, but video games pretty addicting.
Yeah.
And like when I was younger, I had a really big problem with it. Like I really, really loved them. I loved escaping into the colorful Super Mario world. But now that I've gotten older, I mean, at least in the way I see things, a lot of video games are sort of like the same. Like, oh, this is like this, but like different. This is like this, but slightly different.
Yeah.
So it's just not as fun for me sometimes. So I'm not that addicted to it, but like, especially lately, since you've been playing a lot of video games, you get really into it. And to the point where like there are days where we don't speak.
Because all I want to do is play Animal Crossing or something.
Yeah. So how do you have like the stuff to stop?
I don't. That's why I just try not to play video games. It's really, really hard for me to stop playing a video game. And when I do stop, all I'm thinking about is trying to figure out how I can play again.
Right.
And it's something that I hate about my lack of self-control when it comes to video games. I like, for example, if I get a new Pokemon game, like Pokemon is a game that I will play probably until I die. Every time there's a new Pokemon game, I will buy it, regardless of what people say about it. I just need to. I have to. And when I get it, I will play it nonstop for like an entire day or two, day and night, until I beat it, and then I can stop. It's really unhealthy. Yeah. But you have a better relationship with video games than I do.
I mean, like earlier on is the source of why like I had really shitty grades and all that stuff.
Oh.
and a wild, wacky imagination. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that like because I suffered that was a problem growing up. Now that I'm older, it's been easier to have more self-control. and like I said before, it's not my favorite thing to consume. Like I love movies the most.
Yeah.
For me, if you just put a movie on, like I think to me, watching a movie is like one of the best uses of my time. I don't because I love it so much, and because I'm so inspired by it, and because it informs what I do. I never have that guilt. Like I still have it with video games, obviously.
Yeah.
But with watching a movie, that's why it's number one. Like I never feel like I'm wasting my time. I'm always like super inspired, and whenever artistic decisions come to me, often they are because they're informed by something I saw in a movie. But yeah, I have a little bit of a better discipline to stop, but sometimes it depends on the game. I mean, you've seen me get addicted to games, kind of.
Yeah.
Not
as bad as I can get. No. One of the things that I did as a desperate attempt to quit video games is, like I said, when I was younger, I would play Pokemon Crystal over and over and over again, and there would be moments where, like, once I beat it, I have stretches of time where I don't play it, but then when I start it over again, I have to play it nonstop again. Dang. And I remember, I regret it now, but I threw away my Game Boy Advance because it was getting so bad, my addiction to video games, that I needed to quit cold turkey and physically throw it away so I could not physically play it anymore.
Oh my God, that's so dramatic.
I know, it was that bad. And it helped. My grades got better.
Priorities were all wrong.
I know. I regret everything. I'm sorry.
What did those grades do
for
you when you worked in animation?
I am
Nothing.
a slightly smarter human being, I guess. I have random facts in my head
As if
now.
that helps you at all.
Now it's not that bad,
right?
But it still can get kind of bad.
I have to be the one to tell you, hey,
let's hang out. Let's do something. And
let's go watch a movie or something.
But I've been playing, well, not a lot recently because we've been so busy. I've been so busy.
But when it first came out,
I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, and I actually have never played Animal Crossing before in my life. But I knew I would be really into it because
I think we were both watching a Nintendo Direct, which is like a morning presentation or whatever it is. You guys know what a Nintendo Direct is. I don't know why I'm explaining it for you. We were watching a Nintendo Direct, and then one of the games that they showed was this Animal Crossing game. And then you were like, oh, what's that? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I never really played it myself, but it's, I guess it's sort of like Farmville.
And I was like,
oh. Yeah.
Because I really liked Farmville. Yeah. I don't know if any of you guys remember the early days of Facebook, but I spent a lot of time playing Farmville.
Wait, is that a good comparison, though? Like, is it sort of like Farmville? Not really.
Not really, but the mundanity, it is similar. Yeah. Like, all you do is plant things and chop trees and decorate your house and your island and make friends with your neighbors and pick fruit. Like, it sounds so mundane, but I love it so much. I wish I could decorate my island to the best of its ability. I think it's still at like a 4-star island right now.
It's been amazing. Like an ant building an ant colony, watching you slowly, starting from like the most basic of basic sheds and houses to like these amazing like cobblestone thingamajiggers.
Yeah, so because I haven't been able to play it too consistently, especially recently, it's been like, I don't know, a good month or a few weeks since I've been able to turn on that game. But I haven't been able to find the turnip lady for like the first month of playing that game because I didn't know when she would appear, and I can't play it consistently because I'm always busy making these videos or whatever. So when I finally found her and I realized her purpose, that this is basically Animal Crossing's version of the stock market, and it's a way for me to build my wealth and make money. I love money, you guys. And I got so into it, but I had recently lost money because I don't have friends. And I can't go to other people's islands, partly because I'm kind of like an old lady. I don't know how certain technology works, so I've never been to another friend's island. I've never shared friend codes with anyone. I don't have friends, you guys. I do. I'm exaggerating, but I still only have 3 fruits of the 6. I'm so upset that my orchard is incomplete because I don't have oranges and cherries and pears. And no amount of island hopping will give me that because I just need a friend to give me fruit. And to give me furniture.
We need to clip this for Instagram. This is pathetic. Oh my god.
I
need friends. I want fruit, please.
I want fruit, and I want furniture. It's a very slow process of getting furniture every day, every week, because I can only do so much by myself.
You don't time jump or skip or whatever the kids call it, right?
I am a purist.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, that's what they call it. An Animal Crossing purist.
Dang.
I don't time skip or whatever, time travel. Partly because I don't even have time travel. I barely have time to complete all the daily tasks that you're supposed to do when you turn on that game. But I love it so much. It really, especially, I kind of want to make a video about YouTuber burnout one of these days, but there's a certain kind of anxiety that happens when there's a lot of attention on you and when a video goes viral or whatever. And one of the ways that one of the things that I do in order to combat that and to kind of calm down and whatever is to play Animal Crossing. And I just go to my island, I say hi to my neighbors, I work very slowly towards like paying off my house or building a bridge or whatever, and it just calms me down. Yeah. I like it a lot.
That's good.
And the music is really nice and calming. It is.
But let's talk about me trying to play it with you.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things we didn't know because
we're busy people.
Yeah.
We had a lot of stuff to do, and especially at the time we were really, really concentrated on TikTok, and like at the time it was blowing up with people super excited to play Animal Crossing. So we were like, oh, let's get this game and play it together. We have a Switch. I mean, what could go wrong?
Yeah. So I start my island, everything's going great, and then we both assume that, you can just start your own island on your own profile. Mm-hmm. But that's not how it works. You have to be like, take my leftovers, because since I started the game, you were like, hey, why can't I make my own island? Why can't I do anything? Why isn't the story happening the same way it happened for you? And so like we were both really confused because we didn't know that it's basically just one Switch per island. Yeah.
And we had no idea this was a thing. We were really busy and like I didn't look to check if I didn't make sure that it wouldn't be able to. I had no idea this was something I need to look for.
Yeah.
So when this happened, I was like, what the hell? I can't really even play this game properly and make my own island. And I can't even progress properly in your island.
Yeah.
So it's like, what? So I got really mad. And then I was like, I'm never going to play this.
Yeah. But I had started Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I had never played the original Final Fantasy VII, but when I saw the announcement years back when this game was announced to be remade, I was really excited because that's my childhood. I loved Square, specifically the Final Fantasy series. I loved the look of it. Everything about 10 I loved. And playing it, I really dropped off of playing the remake because like at first I liked it. I like it when I actually fight. I really hate everything else. And there's so much of everything else. There's so much weird side quests that are really
Find my cats.
Yeah, time consuming.
Yeah.
For no good reason. And it also kind of makes me dizzy because I have to look around for a cat or something, and they don't tell me where it is, or they don't give me any sort of hint. So it kind of let me down. Final Fantasy VII kind of let me down.
I feel like you're still gonna play it though when you get time.
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Of course, but yeah.
And the final game I'm gonna mention that I finished, is Hollow Knight.
Oh yes.
I love Hollow Knight.
Talk about it.
It's a platformer, and you forced me to play it. I think you downloaded it for me because for some reason you really wanted me to play it, and it not only is beautiful, the music is beautiful, the art style is beautiful, the mechanic is really good, like for a platformer.
Yeah, a lot of my friends in animation were talking about it, and then I saw gameplay for it, and I was like, oh, this is really cute. It's a platformer. Janet can play this. Instead of me playing this, I should just make her play it.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
And it's so fun, but very, very difficult. And I messed up my Switch controllers by playing it. So now
sticks, yeah.
My Animal Crossing character moves on its own sometimes. Which makes me really sad because I don't want to buy another controller. Yeah, those are the 3 games that I've been really enjoying.
Yeah.
Mostly just Animal Crossing, but even at this point, not even really because I've been so busy. But
yeah, but like when it first came out, you got Animal Crossing, and shortly after, I got Doom, which was funny because we used to live in this small rinky-dink apartment, and one of my favorite things about that was one of the first games I played was Doom, the original one. So apparently this is the second Doom game that's come out. The first one I played in the apartment, and you were like, you know, you'd watch me play it, and you saw how addicted I got to it. And then this version came out, and it was like, oh, this is so dope. It's basically like the older one, but like 10 times better. And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. You go around killing monsters and demons and all this shit, and it's the coolest fucking thing ever. I set the sound setting so that the special effects are really low and the dialogue is like maybe at like 70%, and then the music's really fucking loud, so it goes like really, really loud, and it puts you in a mood. And the objective in that game is to like shoot as many monsters as possible and go through this ridiculous, wacky story through Mars and Earth and Moon and all this crazy shit, fighting demons and shit.
And Doom Guy.
And you're this guy named Doom Guy, and you basically have all of these weapons, right? And each enemy has like a thing that they're weak to. So you first get introduced to an enemy, and then you discover through like, you know, just trial and error or reading the codexes that like, oh, this enemy is weak against this thing, right? So you understand all the enemies that they have, but the brilliant part of the game is that they throw all sorts of shit at you, so you're constantly thinking. So in the immediate, like, even though you're in this thick firefight, you're constantly thinking like, oh, that monster is over there. He takes priority because he explodes or he bites me or whatever it is. And it takes out a chunk of damage. I need to take out him first with this gun, and then right behind him is this guy, which I need to take out with this gun, and then I immediately got to turn around and kill this guy before he like hurts me or whatever it is. And it's just like, it's really funny because like you'd be playing Animal Crossing right next to me, and it's like, like really, really calming. And then like right next to me, it's like like really, really, really loud.
And I try to talk to you sometimes, and you're like, hold on, I need to concentrate.
Yeah.
And you really, like you say you need to be in a flow state to play it.
Yeah.
You
So
really do.
I do. It's like, I love the original one that I played in the apartment, like the very, very first one, 2016-ish, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Doom 2016, I think. It was great because it would put me in that flow state. But I also saw like, oh, this could be even better if they ever make another one, and they did. So when they came out with this one, it's just like, oh, it's so good. I kept telling you it's so good, but I remember the first, because it's been a long time. I beat the original Doom in 2016 Doom, and I never played it again. And I was like, oh, this is happening. I'm gonna buy this, so I bought it. And then the first 30 minutes, I was sweating, and I swear I was like leaning back with the controller, and I was like really sweating because of how intense that game is. It's really intense, but then it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I love the look of the game. Like, they did a great job with the art. It's so fun, like traveling through a world of flesh and bone and decay and goop and ugly monsters with slimy eyeballs and things like that. It's just so fun. The world is so fun. And I kept going like, hey, look at that. I kept like poking at you like, look. It's like a building made out of skulls and rib cages.
Or ribs, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Yeah. And like, look, I'm traveling through what appears to look like a rectum. Like, just like these like funny, like, I don't know. It's a beautiful, grotesque game. I love it.
Yeah,
And
I would describe it as like what kind of mind do you have to have in order to come up with this weird stuff?
a beautiful mind.
So you've also been playing Persona, right?
I have. So Persona is one of my favorite video game franchises ever. A friend introduced me to it. The first one I played was Persona 3. And it's a game, if you don't already know, where you play as a Japanese high school student and you live your day-to-day life going to school and doing normal, everyday student things. But then at a certain time, usually by night, you're this crazy, you fight demons and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's like a turn-based RPG game.
Yeah,
basically.
for sure. And I highly, if you've never played it before, if you have heard of it before but you've never tried it, I highly recommend it. The mechanics. If you've ever played Pokemon before, it's just a very simple turn-based strategy thing. Very simple, like elemental, like this element beats this thing and all that stuff. And it's really fun. And the shtick of Persona is a lot of it has to do with time management.
Yeah.
So since you're a high school student and since you are also like let's say a demon slayer, or like they call them shadows, you like slay these shadow things, you have to basically you have to juggle your time as a hero and as a normal kid. So you have tests to prepare for, you have exams to study for, you have to have a part-time job to make money to buy weapons for your for your demon slaying activities. It's hilarious. And I played it at a really interesting time. I played Persona 3 right before I graduated Art Center. I played it in college, and it really informed how I look at my life, because in Persona they basically divvy up your morning, lunch, like noon activities, your afternoon activities, and your evening activities. And the more I started to go through that routine, the more I was like, oh, I could just apply that to my life. So I was like, okay, so if I just organize my life in this specific way, I can get a lot of stuff done, and I did.
Yeah, especially when you told me this. You also said at the time you really didn't have your life together. No. You were just out of high school, right?
Yeah.
And so you, like most normal high schoolers who just graduated, was not the most responsible. I would still call you a teenager, young adult, I guess.
Time management is tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to learn, especially for when you're young and you are starting to have your independence. You have a car and all this stuff, and you could do so many things.
You want to do so much.
You're distracted by so many stuff.
Yeah, you wanna find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You want to party in college. For me, I wanted to travel and rule the world.
Yeah.
I still do.
So this new game, Persona 5 Royal, is basically an updated version of the 2016 version that came out, Persona 5. They added like a new character, new story elements, a few other things, and it's really exciting. I highly recommend it for people who haven't played Persona at all. I mean, it's really fun. If you love Pokemon.
Yeah, like I really like Pokemon, and then when you introduced me to Persona, I really, really liked it.
Yeah, and I really believe this newest Pokemon game took a lot from Persona.
I think so.
At least it's visually, like the emphasis on graphic design and the cleanliness of the menus. Like the Pokemon menus used to be bubbly and chubby and fun, and now they look slick and very beautifully designed now.
Sharp and very modernized. Yeah.
And like the joy of playing Persona is that like the artists who make it, both the graphic designer and Sojima, I think the character designer, like they make really cool stuff. So like when you're choosing your selecting your attacks or you're going through the menu, it's all beautifully designed. It's really fun to look at, and like I've been seeing that influence everywhere, especially in the new Pokemon game. So yeah, Persona, check it out. I'm a big fan.
I'm excited for mostly Switch games because those are the games that I can play mostly. So any Pokemon game, I know it just came out, so I usually there's a new one every single year, and usually around my birthday. But any Pokemon game, any Fire Emblem game, I really like.
Yeah.
I have just actually no. I finished the recent Fire Emblem game, and it was fine.
Oh, you didn't really like it that much, actually.
Yeah, because there was too much Persona in it.
Yeah, there was.
Ironically, like for Fire Emblem, I don't want to spend hours talking to the characters because there's so many. Right. And me being a little bit of a completionist, I can't not talk to everyone. So I will literally spend an entire hour just fast forwarding people's dialogue trees because I just want to get through talking to everyone.
It's so crazy how many RPGs are trying to imitate that Persona magic.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think Pokemon did it well.
I think so.
Because it's just like they took the cleanliness and simplicity of the design of the menus, but I don't think the formula of the day-to-day comings and goings of a person fits in the Fire Emblem thing.
Yeah, because I just wanted to strategize.
Yeah,
because
that's already like enough to work. Like that's already a lot of game to deal with. Yeah. So to add, if at a certain point it felt like a chore to play that game, whereas I think it was natural for Pokemon to start doing that because Pokemon's an RPG basically, so it fit really well. And I think Hollow Knight Silk Song, like Hollow Knight 2, is coming out soon. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't. There's another Hollow Knight? What?
I think they're working on it.
Oh, wow.
But I have no idea when it's coming out because it is considered an indie game, right?
Yeah. Probably going to come out on PC first.
Really?
That's kind of how it works. But I'm sure, I don't know, maybe it'll come out everywhere.
And I quickly looked before we started recording the podcast, but Catherine's coming to the Switch.
Yeah.
And like, if you didn't know, Catherine is also made by Atlas, also designed by the same person.
Yes. They basically took a break between Persona 4 and 5 to make this game, Catherine, which basically also doubled as a kind of new test for their engine that they eventually used for Persona 5, I think.
Yeah, because it looks
similar, very similar.
And I really liked Catherine when I played it for the first time.
It's a puzzle game, right?
Yes, it's a puzzle game, and I really, really, really like
And you can
puzzles.
play it because, you don't get dizzy.
Yeah, because it's not, I mean, it's CG'd. It's like, but it's not like one first person and the camera shaking.
Yeah.
I remember when I first played that game, I was introduced to it by a good friend, and she let me stay over. She also went to art center, and she let me stay over at her house and we do homework together. And then she, I think after we were done or something, she showed me Catherine, and I literally stayed up all night that night at her house playing Catherine.
For the people who don't know what that game is or what it's like, can you give a brief description?
It is a puzzle game where you have to pull out blocks and climb on top of it to get to the top while under a time limit, and things are falling on you, or depending on the level, things are happening, like blocks are being taken away, and
obstacles, obstacles.
And that's the mechanic of the game. The interesting part of it is the story is you are a bachelor
named Vincent, right?
Yeah, I think his name is Vincent, and he is dating this girl Catherine,
Mm-hmm.
but then through supernatural forces there are other Catherines who show up, and you have to choose between them. It's similar to Persona. You have like your normal life in the cutscenes, and decisions that you have to make,
Mm-hmm.
and that affect the puzzle world.
Right, when he falls asleep, I think.
Yeah. And and it has, like Red Dead, it has like a meter to show you which girl you are going to end up with, because it has different endings depending on who you like more, who you end up pleasing more. Not in that way. And you end up with a different girl. So through the process of playing the game, depending on your answers and your choices, you get to pick who you're gonna end up with. Are you gonna be with the waifu, or are you gonna be with the fun girl? Or the reason why they updated it is they added another character, and
probably a completely new personality, I assume.
Yeah. And yeah, it for something so simple, for a mechanic so simple, it is so addicting and so fun, and difficult too, challenging.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that. And basically any RPG game that is worth my time. So you really want to introduce me to Elder Scrolls,
right? Because I got really into it when that game came out, and it was my second life for months and months and months. Probably reasons why I had a whole grade docked in college, because I was too busy playing Elder Scrolls and not doing my homework. But yeah, I think when you play that game, when you really get into it, I think you're not going to talk to me for weeks.
Probably. That's why I'm scared of playing you tried to get me into Skyrim, but I really didn't want to.
You think it's really ugly?
Because there's an aspect of beauty that needs to be in a video game for me to want to play it for hours on end.
And you're really particular about investing into an RPG world. For example, that Cyberpunk game is coming out this fall, and it's basically the Bethesda open world formula. So you're basically playing something like an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout, but you don't like that world. You don't like Cyberpunk. You don't like futuristic worlds.
Yeah.
You're all about the fantasy.
I mean, I even had kind of a hard time with Red Dead because I'm not the biggest fan of shooters and using a gun and that kind of thing. So it took me a little getting used to, because I'm more used to like the turn-based for even I had played Ni no Kuni. I really like that style of play too, but like the traditional like games that are more aimed towards boys are harder for me.
What did you think about Red Dead, though?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cried. By the end, like, we were talking about how, like, these other systems, you have, like, some kind of meter that tells you. So since Red Dead has a good guy meter and a bad guy meter, and a lot of good things happen to you when you are really a good guy, and a lot of bad things happen to you when you're a bad guy.
It just makes your life a hassle when you're a bad guy, to be honest.
And since I'm not good at playing those games, I have that like completionist attitude of like, I need to be good. I need to be the best, the very best boy man that I could be.
Cowboy man.
Yeah. So by the end, I think you get different people, like spoilers for people who haven't gotten to that part in Red Dead. I'm sorry. But something happens at the end that makes you cry. And depending on how good or bad of a guy you were in the game, I think different things happen.
Yeah.
But since I was such a good guy, all these people started saying things about my character, about how like he helped them or in some sort of way, and the scene lasts for I don't know like 10 minutes because it's basically like a credit scene, and I'm crying.
Well, it's basically like a farewell to a character scene. Yeah.
I'm like, you're a good guy.
You're a good man.
Because he always puts himself down, the main character.
Yeah.
He's always like, I'm not a good guy or whatever.
I'm not a good man.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, you're a good man. You're such a good man. Oh my god. But yeah, that game was fun up until that point, and then it was very hard for me to finish. I still haven't finished because something else happens after that.
And yeah. What am I excited for? I'm excited for whatever the new consoles are going to provide. I really hope that they show me things. I hope in the upcoming years there'll be games I've never seen before or thought could be a thing. Because of the new consoles, or I don't know, maybe I'm expecting too much, but that's what I'm excited for. I'm not an early adopter. I usually like to wait, so I'll probably wait 6 months and just to see, because I've seen too many times the early adopters getting buggy consoles or I went through the whole red ring of death thing for Xbox, and I had to mail in my Xbox.
What?
So did you hear about this?
I told you I lived under a rock.
This is something that plagued young people when I was 15. So when I was 15, 16, everyone who had an Xbox, I think it's one of the early makes of the Xbox, eventually this would happen, like to almost every Xbox, I think eventually would have this red ring of death. You basically turn it off. I forgot what exactly would happen. You turn it on, instead of the green rings showing that the console is on, it would turn red. Really scary. And then it's just busted. It just wouldn't work.
Wow.
You can't play anything on it. And then it was so bad. Xbox had this deal where if you had it, you had the opportunity to write down the serial number and all this stuff, and then ship your Xbox for it to get repaired, and then to have it shipped back to you.
Did it work?
I mean, it worked. It worked. They did a great job, but I had to wait a month for it to come back.
In order to do anything?
Yeah, it was absolutely free, which is fine, but it was bad.
Yeah. It
was really bad. So I try to wait before buying a new console. And any games in particular I'm excited for? Not really. Not really.
Halo?
Oh yeah, Halo. I mean, that's just like something that I love playing with my family and friends. So there hasn't been a good one in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm probably expecting this one to be bad, but I don't know. Fingers crossed it's good. Probably is going to be bad.
Yeah, it seems like entertainment media, video games, movies, whatever, it seems like we're going through a little bit of a dry spell.
Like a funk. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
It's all very okay. But
yeah.
What always comes after a period of okay stuff is some pretty real, like a sudden flood of
really good stuff.
Yeah.
It can't be like this forever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Video games.
Yeah, video games. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Check us out at honeyandabsinthe.com, where you can check out our merch. Janet's wearing our Run shirt.
Yeah, subscribe. It helps the video out. It helps the channel out. Share with your friends. It helps us grow. And check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. YouTube is where we make the bulk of our money on this podcast, and it really helps us out if you share it. I think that's it. Oh, check us out on Honey and Absinthe on Instagram, TikTok, everything. Really.
We're everywhere.
And yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.